topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Park. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Park's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyapark.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyapark.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Park.
Good morning, listeners. We're still in January, so it's still nascent 2026, and health is so important. And that's our focus going to be today. So let's welcome our guest.
Hi, Divya. So nice to be here.
Christy. Well, lovely to have you. So, Christy, do you recall a moment or a person that left a positive mark on you when you were a child or when you were a young girl?
I do. I think that there were a few in my life and when I was younger, but one of my biggest passions, I've always wanted to take care of people, help people. And I really attribute that to watching my grandmother, who was a nurse. When I would visit her, she would take me out on her rounds. She would make home visits. And so I would get to see, what she was doing with her patients and, from a very young age. And it resonated with me. And it's something that I always said to myself, I want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor when I grow up. And I kind of carried that with me, just through my entire childhood and growing up. I've always had, I've always wanted to be very compassionate, right, towards individuals. I felt compassionate towards people, and I really felt that I could do great things if I was able to help take care of them in their times of need. And so that's really what kind of drove me on my own journey, through life. When we start, as teenagers, at least I did, getting my first job, and and so on and so forth, right? I was really looking for jobs in the healthcare field. So I worked in doctor's offices as the file clerk or, the back office person, because I just really felt that, I belonged in a place where there were healthcare professionals and patients, and we were able to help and make change. And that really just kind of stuck with me. And that's been the journey that I've been on. And I've had a few bobs and weaves along the way, throughout that, but that's really stuck true to me. And I really believe that's the core of, what's driven me, is really helping people be the best versions of themselves.
So powerful. And these are the little things that we don't realize how we can impact people in our circle of influence. Your grandma took you, and that stayed with you, and that defined your career. And I'm sure, as our audience listens to the podcast, you don't know whom you may be impacting today. So you mentioned that you either wanted to be a nurse or a doctor. And of course, it definitely was very clear how determined you are or how dedicated you are to your passion, that you found doctor's office, because when you're back there, you understand the nuts and bolts of the workings.
Yes.
So how did that influence your college life and beyond?
So I was working at a pediatrician's office, and just out of high school. And so I was working there, and I was kind of, trying to move up the ladder within that doctor's office. She was like, oh, next step is I'll be an office manager, and so forth. And at the same time, I just graduated high school and I'd started college on a part-time level because I needed to work full-time and so forth. And so I was going to college part-time. I was working at this pediatrician's office, and they announced their retirement. And it was a little bit devastating to me. I really loved them dearly. And I was like, okay, well, what is the next step going to look like for me? And, I knew that I was going to stay in the healthcare field, but what did that really mean? Well, there was an opportunity where the hospital in my city actually acquired the practice. And when they did that, they moved me over with them and made me the office manager. So I thought, oh, wow, this is wonderful. So, kind of like checking my box, like this is, kind of like my next step. And while I was in college, I had applied to the nursing program. So it was a very competitive program. I was waiting to become accepted. And so I, just continued on my, everyday routine and was really enjoying what I was doing. Well, one of the nurses from that pediatrician's office had reached out to me. She thought she was going to retire herself. She ended up not. And she reached out to me and she shared with me that she had just started with a new company called Cenegenics. And she said that they were new company, and that they were doing really interesting medicine and approaches to healthcare. And they were growing and they were looking to kind of build their team, and she would love for me to come over. She thought I would be a great asset. So I went over and I interviewed with them, and I actually interviewed for the receptionist position. And it was interesting because, they were a startup at the time, and they were like, look, you're going to college part-time. We're not super busy just yet. You could even do your classwork, at your desk during the day, which, for some people that might've been like, yes, this is like the job for me. But for me, it turned me off. I was like, oh, I'm like, well, that doesn't sound challenging enough. Like, I want a challenge. I want to do more. And again, I was, the office manager at this pediatrician's office. And so I politely declined and, wished them well. Fast forward 6 months, I got a call back from them, and they were starting their very first department called Patient Services Associates. And essentially, so think customer service, right? And they've grown since I last saw them. New department, really excited. They thought I would be a great, first addition to help grow this team. So I heard them out. I was intrigued, and I thought, okay, this is more challenging. I would love to be a part of something like this. So I accepted the role. That was in 1999. So mind you, the company started in 97. I joined in 99. And then I got married. I became pregnant and had my first child. And I then got accepted into the nursing program. Like, everything hit at once. I mean, it was
a lot of decisions and a lot of life-changing events.
Exactly. And it was interesting because during that, call it first 6 months that I was with the company, before I'd been accepted to the nursing program, I had this really unique opportunity to be mentored by the founder of the company. And, he kind of walked in the room. I'd never interacted with him before. And he kind of pointed me out. He's like, you come with me. And he brought me in, and we had a VIP patient that was, having some challenges. He asked me for my help. He wanted, me to kind of like dive in and understand what's going on. So I did work through it. Patient was very happy. He was very impressed with, just the way I managed it and navigated everything, was able to problem solve. And so he's like, I'd love to be able to, work with you in the future if and when it permits. I'm like, absolutely, whatever I can do to be helpful. So when I was accepted into the nursing program, it came at a time where I had been pulled in by him to numerous things regarding the business. And I was so interested in it. It was a challenge. I liked a good challenge. And I was learning a different lens of healthcare than I had ever been exposed to before, right? I was learning the business side of healthcare. And so, I spoke with my husband. I kind of contemplated with myself and, what do I go into the nursing program? Because the intention was once I'm accepted, I have to go into that full time. I would need to resign from my role and get a part-time job someplace. And we decided that, you know what, if this was something I was interested in, let's go ahead and see where it leads us, right? Where it leads me. Mm-hmm. And so I declined going into the nursing program. And I decided to stay on at Cenegenics and just get a little bit more exposure and understanding of how business works in healthcare, especially the way that we were doing healthcare in a proactive, preventive way. And the rest is history. So I stayed with the company. I've now been with it 27 of its 29 years. The running joke was I was promoted a million times, throughout the organization, over the course of those years. And I never went back and finished college. I put it on pause and I just did not finish it. And for me, I have to tell you, it was such, it was a roller coaster. So it has definitely been a roller coaster, but it was such a rewarding time for me. And this experience that I've been able to have to be part of a company that started out in a space that was not traditional medicine, that was, very much, kind of pushing the limits on what is possible in healthcare and taking care of yourself. And I was able to be part of this journey. So, taking the company from its one location to expanding it to now 27 locations, globally, it's been just really something that has really fulfilled me. And, I feel like it's very much aligned still with that original passion and drive that I had to say, I want to help people. So how can I spread the word? How can I do more? How can I drive awareness? How can I educate around what is truly possible when you take a proactive approach to your health, when you don't settle for what's normal, average, traditional, and you really think about what's possible in optimizing the way that you're living your life. So I moved up the ranks, from that very first patient services associate. I was COO by 2005, by 2019, president, and then 2020, I was named CEO. And so I've been the CEO for the last 5.5 years.
Well, congratulations on your journey, because that's very inspiring, Christy. And so many times what happens is that women are rising, women are on boards, women are becoming CEOs, and yet somewhere in the back of a mind, women may be thinking, I may be facing challenges, or they may be facing challenges in reality, or there can be some other barriers. So did you experience barriers yourself?
I absolutely did. Like I said, it's been a wonderful journey, but it definitely was met at different times with challenges and barriers. The reality is, the corporate world and the medical world, especially in the last 30 years, it's very much, still male dominated. And so, I'm in a company, I'm one of very few women. At the time, the former founder was, a male. I'm sitting in boardrooms and going into meetings with physicians. They're all male. And I'm oftentimes like the only or one of very few females sitting in those rooms and at those tables. And, it has been a challenge at different points in time to really try and assert my knowledge, my experience, my leadership, to be able to express it and have it not only heard, but, respected at times, right? I can't tell you how often, I would sit in a meeting and, I'm the one in the weeds doing, the day-to-day operations. And I have like my finger on the pulse of like maybe what it is that our patients need or what our processes need. And I'm sharing this, but because it's coming from me, it was, oftentimes, overlooked or not taken as seriously. And so I found myself, throughout the years, really grappling with, how do I I guess, gain that attention, that respect, right? How do I get it to a place where my voice is really being heard in a serious way? And then we can actually start doing something about it, right? And like making change and doing what's necessary. And I have to tell you, and again, mind you, I was very young doing this. I professionally, I feel like I've grown up at Cenegenics, if you will, right out of college. And I never saw this in like, my community of family or friends growing up myself. We were kind of lower middle class, and I had at this point kind of been like the, quote unquote, the most successful in the family, right, with what I was doing. So I didn't have that mentor outside of my workplace to really guide me and help me navigate these situations. So in my mind, I said, well, I just need to start mirroring who I'm seeing at the table or across from the table, right? Or mirroring the founder of the company, which, to an extent, that's good, right? I always tell my girls, you want to have options. You want to hear all the information. You want to be able to have choices, right? And so I think that that's good to an extent, but I do think that there was a period of time where I lost myself because I lost like, who was Christy, right? Who really am I? And instead I was being the, founder's version of Christy, or I was being the physician's version of Christy, like whoever I was sitting with in the room, that's what I tried to display. And whether it was my posturing, my approach, my tone, all the things. And I was really trying to figure out how do I again navigate this. I'm very driven. Like I've said it already. I liked a good challenge, but I thought that's what I had to do to be successful in my mind.
You bring up such a good point when you said that. And I hear that from so many of my executive clients, especially women. And nowadays, men are also coming out and sharing it openly with me that they feel lost, especially if they are going in a place of authenticity where they don't want to lose themselves, where they don't want to be the version of what other people like to be.
That is
so how did you find yourself, and how did you create that space where you could navigate and create that presence so your voice could be heard?
Yeah. So it took a while. And
that's a key thing to remember, especially with today's instant gratification. We forget that these things take time. You have to invest in yourself to build yourself. So tell us about that journey.
Yeah, you really do. So it's interesting. So kind of talking about it, and I'm going to answer your question, but I want to just kind of like take it back a little. So talking about like, what, like who impacted me, where I saw myself. And I told you, I want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor. Well, then I got into Cenegenics and I saw the business side, and now I was advancing, the corporate ladder, manager, director, COO, president. I never saw myself as CEO. Like that just never entered my head that was like a next step for me. I was, for lack of a better word, maybe content with, being, COO president. And I thought I had made it. And so in 2020, there was an opportunity where, the company had a transaction, some new investors came in, the founder decided he wanted to step away and retire. And it opened up this opportunity for me to be the CEO. And they selected me. They chose me to step into that CEO role. And I was honored, blown away, shocked. I was also terrified, if I'm being very honest, because I'm like, how do I be CEO? I'm an operator at heart. How do I do this? And so again, I led and I went into that still kind of masked, right? Because I was not my authentic self. And so I tried to read different books and listen to, different podcasts, whatever it was. I was just trying to like navigate it on my own. And I had the opportunity to connect with someone who did executive coaching and somatic work. And she and I had this really great conversation. And I thought, maybe I should invest in myself in that regard. Maybe I should, go ahead and go through some executive coaching to really help me, understand how I can be the best CEO possible.
Mm-hmm.
I engaged with her and we worked together for 2.5, almost 3 years. And I will tell you, that was such an eye-opening experience, because where we started was really like back at day one at Cenegenics, right? If not before. And it was really to identify, who am I? Who is the authentic Christy? What is my voice? What drives me? Not what do I think should drive me because so-and-so says it should drive me. Who is that? And so I worked with her and kind of navigated to kind of reintroduce myself to myself, if that makes any sense at all. I had to reintroduce myself to who the true Christy was and how I wanted to show up as not only a CEO and a leader of my team, but how do I want to show up as a mom to my 2 girls? How do I want to show up as a wife to my husband? How do I want to show up with my family, with my community and friends? And I have to tell you, it was a bit uncomfortable, like going through this and really, like digging deep. But I have to say, I came through that coaching and that experience truly feeling not only like a different person, but that different person, I now knew who she was. I recognized her. Mm-hmm. And I used to always say, I don't know who the real Christy is, or I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I was saying this in the last 5 years, right? This is like recent. And it's because I wasn't connected to who I was authentically, and having that confidence to know that, what, I got here because of how I showed up every single day. But imagine if I showed up in my authentic voice, my authentic leadership, the way I want to engage with people, the way I want to lead people or influence. What if I did that instead? Imagine the possibilities. And so for me, that journey of like digging deep within and really being able to now express who Kristy Berry is. And yes, Kristy Berry holds this role of CEO, but Kristy Berry is more than just that. I am defined by so much more than just my professional success or my professional title. And when I was able to acknowledge that and start living that and being proud of it, and not afraid, right? Not afraid to walk into my board meeting where I'm the only woman at the table and not feel like I had to, kind of put on a different, persona just to fit in. I was able to show up for who I was. Everything in my life really changed, and really for the better. Like I felt lighter. I felt more clarity around what I was doing. I felt more connection. I had a lot of guilt. If I'm again being honest, I had a lot of guilt over the years that, maybe I didn't show up enough for my kids, or I wasn't, as good of a partner to my husband as I should have been. And, all the stuff. Right. Yeah. And I was able to give myself grace. And when I was able to do that and really live and embody this feeling of, okay, you are who you've always been meant to be, right? That's when it like clicked for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, imagine how many other women or people in general, just anybody are feeling like I can't be the only one. And that's really what has kind of pushed me to like talk about it and to share my story and to, encourage people to, not settle. Right. And so whether it's you're settling with your health or you're settling for your just, your everyday person, how you're showing up, like it is absolutely okay. And it's okay to make it a non-negotiable to take care of yourself and whatever that looks like for you so that you can show up as that best version of yourself. Because when you can do that, then again, what you're able to do for all the people around you that you care about, love about, need to take care of, et cetera. Like it's just compounded in so many ways. And that just drives more joy and like purpose. And it's just a really beautiful place to be. So, you know, a long-winded answer to your question, but it was a journey that I didn't really start to explore until 5 years ago. And then it took me, and I'm still working on myself. I have not figured it out for sure, but it took me a solid 3 years of like doing some hard, you know, looking in to really know how I want to show up externally.
Yeah, it's all about looking in and leaning in, because it's a very unsettling place when you are leaning in, because the brain loves to be comfortable. The brain doesn't like to optimize. So I want to acknowledge you for taking that time and sharing your story, because I believe that each and every one of us is a lifelong learner. We cannot ever get there. But that said, we are achieving those levels, and then there's another frontier to cross. There's another barrier to, because as you grow, your capacity grows.
Yes.
And you can tackle others. And just that self-connection and the power of self-trust allows you. It's about giving yourself that permission that will allow you to scale any mountains that you want. And you did it. So I do want to congratulate you for your journey, because we are so focused as a society. Yes, the titles are great, but what about scaling your own barriers and your own fears? And that takes a lot of courage, and it's something to be celebrated. So kudos to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Absolutely, Christy. So that's phenomenal that that's how you achieved your journey and are still continuing on it. So let's bring about as to what does your company do? You talk about going from, just focusing on longevity to measurable health span, where we are bringing in quality of life. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I've shared already, Cenegenics, we really pioneered this space back in 1997 of longevity, right? I think that's the buzzword today, longevity. Back in 1997, 98, it was anti-aging. It's kind of gone through its evolution of all the things. At the end of the day, our focus is really around helping people optimize as they age. And doing so by taking a very comprehensive approach and holistic approach to one's health and well-being. And so our goal is that, the aging process is normal. Everybody's going to age, but our goal is to partner with you on that life journey, because how you show up today, how your health is today, it's going to look very different next year, 5 years, 10 years from now. And so if we can be proactive in how we think about your biology, how we think about your lifestyle, your nutrition, your exercise, and bring all of that together, because everything truly is all interrelated and connected. So if we can really understand at the core how your body is functioning and be able to identify whether there are any indicators that might suggest that you are predisposed for disease, we want to then partner with you to help you along that journey to either delay or reverse the onset of that disease. We want to help you continue to show up at your peak performance. And maybe you haven't even experienced that yet. Maybe you've been suboptimal for a very long time. So helping you identify where your peak is and how you can truly be optimized. And, so everything from, mental clarity to, restful sleep, to optimize hormones, enhance libido, all of the things that play into how you show up every day. Our goal is to extend your health span, because we're not saying you're going to live forever. At some point, It will be your time. However, imagine taking the last 10, 15, even 20 years of your life and being able to still be active and doing all the things you love. And so whatever it is, whether it's playing with your grandchildren, it's skiing down the mountains, it's, hiking, it's playing golf, it's running your business, well into your 90s, whatever it is that you get enjoyment out of and that you like to do, being able to ensure that you can stay active in those later decades. That's what health span is about. It's about not settling for maybe what you saw your parents or your grandparents experience, right, in their aging process. And so how do we do that? So Cenegenics, again, we take that very comprehensive approach. So we're doing a very comprehensive biomarker test. So we're going to draw your blood. We're going to look at over 270 biomarkers in your blood serum. We're then going to have you experience a day with us at one of our locations where we're going to put you through a series of diagnostic testing, where we're going to look at your biometrics. And so everything from your full body composition, your bone density, which is incredibly important, your body fat, your lean muscle mass, your brain cognition. We do brain EEG testing. We want to look at how your alignment is. So doing like a 3D musculoskeletal alignment to understand, do you have balance issues? Do you have certain challenges with, maybe you've have an old sports injury that's still, giving you problems today, but you've just kind of accepted that that's what it is and it can't be changed. Well, that's not necessarily the case. And so when we go through this series of diagnostic testing to really uncover and identify how your body is functioning, we can then create programs and interventions and therapies that can really help you take where you sit today and move you into a more optimized state. So whether that is through hormones or peptides, nutraceuticals, importantly, always included, nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, because at the end of the day, those are the core foundations, right? Everybody is like, what am I putting in my mouth? Am I moving? How is my, my mental wellness? And then couple that with the clinical approach of really diving into your glucose, your hemoglobin A1C, your cortisol, your hormones, all of your biomarkers to work together, because you really are doing yourself a disservice if you're looking at things in a singular way, right? If you're just attacking, well, I have high cholesterol, so I'm just going to focus on the cholesterol and, that's what I have to worry about. Well, no, your cholesterol, ties directly into your glucose and your hemoglobin A1C. It is impacted by your cortisol levels, your hormone levels. Everything is interconnected. And so when you're able to take this very expansive look at your body and learn more about yourself than you will ever imagine knowing, that is where then partnering with our physicians who are experts in this space. Again, we've been doing this for over 30 years. We've got incredible patient outcomes and transformations. But taking that information and having experts to partner with and really walk with you on this journey. That's what Cenegenics is about. It's partnering with people to help them take back control of their health and keep them active and, again, doing all the things that they love well into their older years.
So that sounds very powerful to me. Where I'm sitting, it seems like it's an integrated approach, where you're saying that, okay, that if you have gone to one specialist and they're looking at only one aspect, you go to another specialist, they're looking at another aspect of your health, versus what you're telling me, if I'm understanding correctly, that you're bringing the whole holistic approach where you're looking at people as a whole human being and looking for the connectivity between different biomarkers.
100% accurate. That's exactly what we're doing. And that is, it's interesting because, we hear stories all the time from our patients where, they're like, oh, well, I'm healthy. I'm healthy. I work out. I, eat well. I'm just, feeling a bit tired, or, I'm, I used to play soccer, but, I can't anymore. Like little things, right? But they're just like, but I'm healthy. And I'm not saying, we're not saying, no, you're not healthy, but what we're saying is you maybe aren't optimized. But how do we know like where to start and where to look at, the best places that we can start making little tweaks, because that's what it's about, right? It's about a lifestyle and to creating a habits that are sustainable. I think that's where I think society as a whole really, oftentimes gets caught up in, I like to call them like the sexy, shiny objects out there, like the latest, greatest thing. But how long can you sustain maybe that thing that you're going after, or that extreme diet, or, you're going to, push yourself, to certain, levels during your workouts? Like, how sustainable is that? And so for us, it's about identifying everything that is interconnected, and how can we start tackling them one or two, maybe three things at a time, that you can again start creating these healthier habits, and you can start optimizing your body with maybe things that you've been depleted on, or are running low, or maybe they're running too high and we need to bring them down. How can we work with you so that this is something that you carry with you into your older years, and it's not just a fad, or it's not just, a one-year membership that you're signing up for? I mean, this is really a lifestyle choice. And I think that where we sit today at Cenegenics is I very much view us as a disruptor of traditional medicine in a lot of senses, because, traditional medicine, and, you go to your doctor, they might run you go for your annual, they might run, do some lab work, but it's a very small panel. I mean, I still have not seen a GP do, over 270 biomarkers, right? So they're running a very standard panel, and you get your report and it says, average or normal, right? And it says, your range, you're within normal range. Well, that's based on a massive population of individuals that are very different from you, from me. And so that is not a personalized approach. So when we look at those same labs and we add to them all the additional biomarkers, we can get very precise, and we can create this personalized look and approach to your health that is not quote unquote normal or average based on what, how traditional medicine defines it. It is personalized to you, and it should be. That's, I often tell people, we should all be the CEOs of our own body. We should all take back control of our health and really understand how we function and what works for us, because what works for me may not work for you, and likely won't, right? Or vice versa. And so that's where, there's a lot of noise in the space today, in the longevity space, a lot of information. And I think it's a great thing. I love the awareness. I love that people are talking about it. But how do you make a choice on, what you should do? Who do you listen to? What do you follow? And I think that, from Cenegenics' perspective, one of the things that, we are most proud of is the fact that, we are a physician-led organization. We have been, always will be. We are very much focused on that personalized approach. We look at you as an individual, not as a subset of some, population of people. We want to partner with you. We want to help you understand first your body, and second, how you think about your future, how and what we see as the potential of your future from an optimized perspective with your health. And then how do we set up a program that is going to ensure success, right? and that you're able to achieve and experience all the greatness that is possible when you can truly live and feel your best.
Absolutely. And so what I'm hearing is that you're talking about a sustainable plan, not just like one new thing, like, okay, let's do this fad and we are done, but a lifestyle choice, looking at the overall peak performance and very much a precision medicine. So as we come to the end of our show, tell us, like, where do you see this precision peak performance medicine going in next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think that in the next 5 to 10 years, I think that there is going to be so much more advancement and acceptance around precision medicine, around performance health, longevity. It is here to stay. I do believe that, we're sitting at a really interesting point in time with all the technology that's, coming to be, AI, the data, and really being able in the next 5 to 10 years to find out where those interface together. I'm a firm believer that, nothing replaces that human to human connection. Nothing replaces that physician expertise, but being able to then layer in technology for an enablement experience, I think that is going to be really impactful in the next 5 to 10 years. I think that I also see a shift in traditional medicine, and this is going to take a long time. So it definitely is not going to solve itself in 5 to 10 years. But I think that we are going to see more and more, at least openness, maybe not yet acceptance, but openness to the approach around preventive precision medicine being like the new standard of care as a whole versus it being more, what's the word? Elective, right?
Right.
I think that being able to understand how we can meet people where they're at whatever stage of life, that's going to grow. And I think that it's going to be a beautiful thing. And I'm really excited about the future potential of where we as a society can continue to drive the mindset of being proactive, being preventive, and really wanting to optimize as we age.
Yeah, no, that's definitely powerful. So thank you for joining us, and thank you for all the work that you're doing, helping people improve their lives, not only improve, but have them live at their peak and beyond. So are there any last thoughts you'd like to share with our audience?
First, Divya, I just want to say thank you for having me on this show. For the audience, I guess my one thing, if I could just leave a parting thought, stop guessing, don't guess. Really take make that active choice to understand your health and start with your biomarkers. Really understand how are you showing up every day and what are potential opportunities for you to show up in an even more impactful way. So stop guessing, really just understand your body, because that's how you can start taking back control. And I just want to, share that with everybody. So again, thank you so much for having me.
It was a joy having you. And if people wanted to connect with you and wanted to go seek out those biomarkers and partner with you, where could they find you and find that other information?
Yeah, so you can visit our website at www.cenegenics.com. That's CENEGENICS.com. You can reach out to me directly as well on my LinkedIn, Kristy Berry, or my Instagram. Would love to have a conversation and share more about what is possible for you and your health.
Well, thank you for joining us. And thank you, wonderful audience, for being part of our show, because without you, the show is nothing. So keep sending us your emails and your love, knowing how and who we can bring on the show so you can live the best life you deserve. And thank you, Juan, for making the show technically possible. Be well and take care. Until next time.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who've experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.